Welcome to another episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. I'm very excited to sit down with today's guest. He is a legend when it comes to film and TV production in Hollywood. He has been responsible and behind many shows that you're aware of, has worked with various actors, global sensations, in producing various films, TV shows, news segments, reality shows, documentaries, and so many other things. He's also a philanthropist and has helped deliver food and supplies and medicine to various war zones around the world, actually delivering them firsthand. And he's just got a tremendous story from his childbirth, which we'll get into today as well, right up until what he's doing around the world. So enjoy this episode as I sit down with James Axiotis, talking about all things media, film production, and Hollywood.
My name is George Stroumboulis, and I'm extremely passionate about traveling the world, meeting new people, and learning about new businesses. Join me as I sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about their journeys. This episode of Invigorate Your Business starts now.
You know, it's a good conversation when we just jump into it, right? So we're going to cover a lot of things today. We're going to talk about personal career, just success in Hollywood, in the industry, which is great from the surface. But when you really dive down into your story, you know, why you're here, what you're doing, it's remarkable. We actually shed tears together the other day. Honestly, I got chills. Beautiful story. Then the philanthropy aspect and just talking about our heritage. So we're sitting here today with, and I'm very honored to have you here, and I really do appreciate your time, James P. Axiotis, just well-known name, has been in the industry in Hollywood, TV, film production, has awards as a producer. It's part of different organizations from the Producers Guild of America and Producers Without Borders and several other charities, and what you're doing and giving back and traveling the world and going to war zones and bringing medicine and food to those in need and actually doing it, not just writing checks, and a bunch of other stuff. And then your story, which I want you to jump into on just how you came from Greece here, and bringing awareness to that through your new documentary. So a million things. Please, thank you for joining us, and just start out, like, talk to us professionally. Like, what do you do? How have you come to this point?
So to give the Reader's Digest version, which a lot of young kids aren't going to know what Reader's Digest.
Yeah, what?
Reader's Digest. I went and Google that. So I was adopted in 1964. I was about a year and a half old, from Nick and Sophie EACHOTHER. And there was this whole, at the time, the Greek, we call it the Greek scandal, the black market babies has been called now. There's 4,000 or 5,000 of us that were pretty much expelled from the country, right, from Greece, and we were deemed illegitimate. So I hit the lottery because, again, the parents who adopted me were in Southern California, and so grew up out here, and they were a great family, and the relatives and the whole thing. Not knowing I was adopted early on, but it was just this, and my dad, to his credit, was very much a really proud Greek. Like, everything was you're Greek, the music, the whole thing, right? Greek food at all holidays. We weren't doing. If we did a turkey, we were doing lamb. It was Greek. And so, and then on the Lowly football team, the Lowly football team got asked to do this ABC After School Special, which, again, people are going to have to Google what is an ABC After School Special. But we were asked to do that. Was on set for 2-3 weeks. The directors were Greek, Nick and Tony Philanthropic, and Alex Karras, who was a former football player, and he was trying to be an actor. And when they saw my name, we all had to put our names on our last names. I don't know, it was funny, just our last names on the helmets. So, you have this masking tape and then Axiotis, right? And the director stopped, like, in dead his tracks. So there were all the names, He's like, he said, "Are you Greek?" And I said, "Yes." And he pulled me aside and said, "You're going to have us, you're not going to be with it. These are all extras." And I'm like 12 or 13. I got an IMDb credit. I got to eat with the crew. And then when all the other extras were just killing time when we're not, because we had to be in school first. And then after that, I just run around on whatever until we're going to do a scene. But then he started strategically putting me in other scenes and putting me with Alex, and I ate meals with them. And then when I wasn't with them, I got to walk around the set. And that's the birth of the love of the business, because I'm in this village of, the camera department, lighting department, makeup, and I could ask some questions, and they're showing me, what is this? And I just remember, as I told you, one of the days I was driving home from a shoot, and I just told my dad and mom, I said, I don't know what that is, but I want to do that. And everyone early on thought, oh, he wants to be an actor. And it wasn't that. And I did take acting classes. I did have a headshot and resume, and I was, doing that. But the point was to get on set. And then in high school, our church dance group was asked to be in the Poster Always Rings Twice with Jessica Lange and Jack Nicholson. And there was, again, we're out of school for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm back on set. And again, it just reaffirmed, like, I got to do this. I got
to be in that ecosystem.
Just the whole, you're on set. We're downtown LA, and the Patriotic Hall, and now it's called the Bob Hope Patriotic Hall, and that's where we shot the scene. And not knowing anybody in the business, didn't have any relatives, didn't have any, I wanted to go to college for something, but as like, he was old school, like, doctors and lawyers go to college. So
they weren't in that space at the time.
They weren't in that space. Yeah. And so college wasn't afforded to me, and did other jobs, but then eventually I delivered videotapes. I worked at a place called VTP, Videotape Products. At that time, it was the largest in the 80s. They delivered to all the studios, everywhere. So I became a delivery guy. Okay. And I knew, like, well, I'm going to get on a lot of in all the studios I'm going to deliver to. So I had this paper resume in the car my mom typed for me. And so after about almost a year of that, I remember I walked into this one place I was delivering tapes to, and I said, look, I don't know if you guys remember, but like a long time ago, I gave you a resume, and they go, oh, no, we have it on file. Thank you. We don't have anything now. This was like on a Monday. And then Wednesday, they called me and said, our PA got in a car accident. It's okay. He's fine. His car got wrecked, but he's going to be an editor anyways. Do you still want the job? So I came in on, I think, Thursday. They interviewed me. They said, we have some other people, but we'll let you know by Friday. And then Friday, they called me and said, you got the job. And I remember lying to the company and said, I'm going to be an actor in a movie. Can I come back after 2 months? Because, and they're like, because I didn't know what production was going to be. I didn't know what being it, because my dad said, what does that mean? I said, I don't know. I'm a PA. I'm going to make mileage in the rate. And I got it. How long was the work? I didn't know. So we did a bunch of Disney shows, and again, I was just on set, I'm delivering. And when I wasn't delivering, I was sitting with editors and just trying to learn. And this was 85. And after that job, because they finished doing shows, then I worked I was a manager, an office manager at a literary talent agency, because I want to understand how does that work? Oh, wow. And luckily this was talent. And so they had actors. They had like Ralph Macchio. They had some pretty big, they're in Brentwood.
Karate Kid, right?
Karate Kid, yeah. And they had some other big, in fact, they just got rid of a lot of the kids from the Brat Pack. They had Rob Lowe, they had all of them, but they left. But anyway, Danny Glover. In fact, I remember seeing Danny Glover when he just got the job for Lethal Weapon. Oh, wow. He was with them. But I was an office manager, and one of the things, because they're literaries, they said, you're going to read at least 3 scripts a day. And then on every Wednesday, we sat in a circle, and what scripts we liked were with the agents, because what they were packaging is saying, we have actors, writers, and directors. So they would go to studios saying, look, we have a script that you love. Here's a director you should probably use, and here's 3 actors. So she was kind of packaging. This was before the big agencies you see now. That is what they do. This is the 80s.
Okay.
And she was really ahead of her time, though they were boutique. But again, only doing that not because I wanted to be an agent, but I wanted to see, like, how does this underbelly work?
So what age are you here now?
So 22.
So 22, now you're getting exposure to the casting side, the director, everything.
And all that. And then I got a job on a sitcom. In fact, the only job available was a PA. I'm like, I want to be a PA again, but fine. And then one of the guys who was a post coordinator had to take a week off or a day off or something. He was doing some other event. And the secretary heard how I used to help the assistant editors on these Disney shows. So she told the executive producer, hey, James was like, so also the next thing I know, I'm promoted. Now I'm a post supervisor on a sitcom for NBC.
And what does that mean to people that don't understand?
So that means back then, that means that I had to, after we taped the show, we had 3/4 and 1-inch tapes, and I'd have brought them all to the post-production facility. And I oversaw the delivering all, I think it was 13 or 18 episodes. And then we're offline and online color sessions, sound, overseeing that to make sure it got delivered to the network.
Gotcha.
Right? Not knowing really how to do that, but you become you do it. And the amazing thing was, while I was delivering tapes and delivering edits to the network, and this is old school, like you're handing them a VHS or, to literally to the network. And I mean, on a lot at NBC and Burbank. I made a lot of friends, and I was just being conversational with people. So long story short, the show wraps were done. And so I still have the same boss who now at the same time was trying to pitch this pilot for a series, a dramatic series. It's called Beacon's Place. And I come back to the office, and he's with his wife, and his wife's like, tell him what the network, and he goes, because I said, I delivered everything. Scooby Mitchell was this comedian. He was in Barefoot in the Park. He was this well-known African-American who came up in the 60s and 70s, and he was an actor, comedian, but he was now a producer. So he says to me, because I said, okay, I just delivered everything's in the vault, all the tapes are delivered, I wrapped everything post out. I was just he says, James, I'm not happy with that. You shouldn't be doing that. And I was kind of like, what I do right? He says, you're an associate producer now. That should never happen. And I'm like, and I don't even know what that means. And then Claire, his wife, says, tell him what the network said. And I guess when he was talking to the network about doing this new pilot, the network says, who's still with you from the sitcom? And he says, everyone's gone but James. And the network says, promote him.
Get out of here. So what network was that at?
NBC.
NBC.
So I was one of the younger producers. I was only 23.
Wow.
So it was a network recommendation.
But up until that point, though, this is important to highlight. So 12, 13, because of your last name, someone pulls you aside and kind of exposes you to this, right? Maybe that put you on the path, maybe it didn't, but it sounds like it did. 18 rolls around, you're back into it, you start realizing, and now a few years later, your early 20s, you're working hard, you're dedicated, you're networking, right? And then you become an associate producer. What traits inside of you got you to that point?
I will say what I would tell everyone: be nice and kind to everybody. I remember one thing I did early on. That's when I carried a day runner, and in fact, the gal who recommended me, she got promoted because she was head of comedy development. She just got promoted into some other thing, which I didn't know that. But what I do remember is things like, if I was in your office and I saw flowers, I go, and they're, oh, it's my birthday. I'd leave, and I'm like, okay, it's George's birthday. I'd just take that note. Or you talk about your son or your daughter or a marriage or an anniversary. Yeah. I would make those notes in my day runner. So I'd have your name and number. So when I saw you again, hey, how's your husband doing? Or did your wife, your kid was sick and they broke, I'll remember these things. So while I wasn't just trying to deliver it all, I was trying to make connections. Wow. Just for the fact of just, I want to be nice and kind. And, little did I know that woman, Lorraine, would remember me because she got promoted and said, who do you have? And he did let go of everyone from the sitcom but me. And never thinking that would lead to a promotion of any kind. It was just, so I was shocked. And I remember, I went in the bathroom, then I was like crying, but I didn't know what associate producer meant. Because again, you can't Google.
Right.
So I'm going to be, okay, Scotty, so I'll be associate producer on a pilot for a series. And okay, and you get a bump and raise and pay, and okay. But again, there's no go-to. Yeah. You just, okay. And so he just said, look, I want you to go to every meeting I go to, all the production books you're going to have. And I went to all the budget meetings, location scouting, casting. I did all that. I sat there, and he just says, just go with me. Even meeting Brendan Tartikoff, who was the president of NBC, going to all these meetings, right? And that's what I did. And we did the pilot. It aired. It was the day after Christmas, and it didn't get picked up. Okay. But that set in motion, okay, this is producing. This is, and then soon right after that was the Writers Guild strike. So now I'm 23, 24. And then no one's working again for 9 or 10 months. No one's working. Okay. And so long story short, I met a gal. we got married. Her family was in Iowa. She wanted to have the baby in Iowa, and I thought we'd move there, and I would, move back. Long story short, I'm there for, I think, 7 years. I started my own production company there, and I had, in the Midwest, I had John Deere, Pella Windows, and all the hospitals. I was doing, but realized I'm a big fish in a small pond. Moved up to Minnesota, had Target and Best Buy, did stuff with them, but again, big fish, small pond. So finally, and markets were changing and things just, so I said, I got to move back to LA. So now it's
kids in the picture now.
So now I have, my oldest at the time, Anna was, oh my gosh, 10.
Okay.
And now I got remarried, got divorced, got remarried. So now I have my Sophia, she's 1 turning 2.
Okay.
And we moved out here in 2001, 2002. And just doing odd jobs, because again, I'm come back, but now no one's like, well, dude, your resume, like, we know what you did in the 80s. Now it's 2002, and you can't show them hospital commercials and Iowa supermarket commercials. I mean, and they were great. They were, but so there was this gap, the stopgap of trying to get back in. And I did, I worked with some Christian ministries, hired me, and I was just doing whatever production I could. And it really wasn't until getting on Hell's Kitchen, and I was like it was 2012 or 13, and I was in post. So that got me back, because everyone in India is like, they remember, oh, you're a Post guy,
right,
from the 80s. I'm like, well, Post obviously radically changed from 85, 86,
20 years later, yeah.
Right. So now it's digital, whatever. But one thing I always tell people is the fundamentals of delivering has never changed.
Okay.
So I did end up doing 5 seasons of Hell's Kitchen,
which was the biggest show at the time.
It was one of literally the biggest reality shows of $35 million. We did 2, and we would shoot 2 seasons at a time. Most people didn't realize that. We were a year ahead.
How many episodes is a season? 12?
I think we did 18 episodes.
Wow.
And I did 5 seasons. And
that's huge.
Yeah, it was amazing. Because from then on, I could tell you that when I worked my way up to being I was a coordinator to supervisor, post producer. When they're like, well, if you did Hell's Kitchen, this show is not as big as that, because this was a big show.
I remember watching that up in Canada at the time, or no, I was in New York. That was so you got to interact with Gordon Ramsay.
Amazing, yeah.
Was he amazing? Was that all an act?
So yeah. So the gig was, he knew once you turn the camera on now, because up until he was very respectful, very kind. Whenever we brought him into the post facility, because we need to do a voiceover, we need to do whatever, he was always thanking us and like, what's your name? And I mean, he was just like, I tell people, if they watch the ones that he did with, there was a show he did with kids, I forget, Master Chef Jr., I think.
Yeah.
I said, that's Gordon.
Okay.
The one who Gordon is like, how he interacts with the kids when they're crying and he's encouraging, that's Gordon Ramsay. And the other thing, I'm not saying he's lying or fake, but it's Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. People want to see that.
It's Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever. So did that, then got into, and I, begrudgingly got into reality because I wanted to go back to scripted or sitcoms. So did that, then did documentaries, did music shows, did talk shows, ran post over at AT&T. Then I finally got an opportunity to do a Facebook show. It was called 365 Days of Love. Sophia Vergara was an AP on that. And I really wanted the job because I said, I want to see how, with social media, how does this work? How would that work with them? Right. And it was an Instagram show, and it was on Instagram and Facebook. And that really, because then I said, that's what's coming. Like back in the day when there were silent movies, now there's talkies, or when there was networks and now it's cable, and now cable went to streaming. What's this next iteration? And it's here, of course.
Well, what were the numbers? Just to that point, I'm always curious. Like today, you'll be somewhere and someone, an example, I'm with my business partner in LA or New York, and he'll be like, oh, that's so-and-so from this show, the show I've never heard of, the person I never heard of. 20 years ago, when I was in my 20s, there were fewer options, and you would know who that actor is, what that show is. It's like, what do the numbers look like when you were doing, that sitcom 20 plus years ago versus like a Facebook show? Do the numbers keep dividing up?
So kind of, I go back to, and I'm a huge believer of Steve Jobs, his books, but what he did with, let's say with iTunes, when he went to the labels and said, look, we're not buying, they could buy the record, but I'm going to make an opportunity they can buy the song. Because you're making it like, buy this record and then, or maybe the 45 and the whatever. And his whole plan for Apple TV was going to be the same thing with cable. It's like, I only want ESPN and HBO and ABC, whatever. That's all. I just want those three. Right. Just with the same way they picked music. And of course, that hasn't happened yet. But and what you see now is with streamers and what you see with YouTube, and where my daughters will show me people that they subscribe to. There's this girl named Yona. I think she's in Sweden. And there'll be 8 million views on this video. Now she's a photographer, she's a painter, she makes her own jewelry, right, with her husband. And this stuff's amazing. And I've even bought some of the jewelry and stuff. But I love how it's so parsed out. So now you can pick, like so Georgia, who likes, that kind of stuff and painting and artistry, and someone who plays the flute, like she subscribes to all those. My daughters, I spend more money on YouTube subscription. Right. What I'd say, do you guys want to watch NBC? Do you want to watch and they haven't watched local television and I mean years. Right. And if I say, just for the weather, well, look, I'll look at my phone. Exactly. Whatever. So it's been so, and I don't say that's bad, but I remember we were doing this show for A&E that it was a reboot. Unsolved Mysteries. It was something about murder, whatever, I forget, it was some crime. Anyways. Yep. And I remember they said it was, so told the network, said, what are you looking for so we get another season? So if we get like 250,000 people watching this, I said, that's it? That's it. I'm like, my daughter's watching YouTube videos and it's out for 3 hours. They've already got 4 million views. Yeah. Probably recorded on their phone in their room, right? Yeah. So, and they're talking about, or George likes this one girl who does these period piece dresses. Yeah. Here's how you buy it, or here's how you sew it, or here's where you get this linen or whatever. 3 million views. So, and she's in Poland. Yep. So George is like, so you're watching a show in Poland, you watch a girl in Sweden, you're watching some guy in Florida who's whatever, right? Yep. And that's what they want. So it's a very, very different. And the people don't and that's where, again, watching it go from 3 networks to cable, which was a huge paradigm shift. Yep. And then from cable to streaming. And we're still, with the strikes, still catching up to how do we monetize that? What I do love, and as a Greek, as an international person, is that brought the whole world. So now you're watching more movies. Where back in the day, in the 70s, when I was growing up, if you want to see a foreign film, there was like 2 theaters in Hollywood that would show them, right, for a weekend. Now I can go to Amazon or Netflix, go to a streamer, and there's a whole thing of just foreign films, right? Or if I want to watch just comedies, if I want to watch it right there, it's all there. Yeah. Right? So, and again, we're back to the iTunes model. Like, what do you want? And now they even know, like, well, you watched this rom-com. Here's another rom-com. George, you want to watch this one now? Because you like that one. Stupid, right? Simple to just click. You get, sure, I like that. But what do they know? They know, like, roughly your age and you're watching this. Yeah. So here was the amazing thing in post. That was the difference. When I was delivering the shows to Fox, I would give them a link and I'd send this to all the executives. And of course, our people in post were on the email. And I'd say, here's, episode, da-da-da. Well, I was on that thread and so the executives at Fox would say, okay, and they give you time code. This is, can we go to a wide shot? And I think the other person's on, I don't like that. And they would give human notes. Okay. All the way through, right? And we'd make those notes, we send it back, more notes, and then finally it'd be a final cut and we deliver it. I deliver the show. So now I'm at Facebook. And Facebook was like, no, these are like, we got graphs and algorithms. So they're like, they're telling us we ghosted the show to, like, let's say 800,000 people around the world, this episode, right? And they knew, like, 13-year-old boys, 2 minutes in or 30 seconds in, stop watching it. And girls, they liked it, but, whatever. So their notes were more there. They weren't human notes. They were graphs saying, you need to change this. And they knew, because they knew their audience. Their algorithm was saying this. And what they were saying, what I learned was the top 3 things were this. If it's with animals, show the animals. The number 1 animal is dogs. If you have dogs, don't talk about a dog, show the dog while you're talking about a dog. Or One of the jokes I made, it was like, if it's a pretty girl, like, stay with the boobs, stay with the prettiness, or kindness. Those are the top three things. When we did the changes of their algorithm, of the graphs, like, okay, so boys cut off at this, girls are, men at whatever. We made those changes because they said, what are you looking for? They said, we want to watch it all the way through and we want to share. That's a win. That's what we care about. So we did the changes, and then they showed the graph again, and sure enough, they watched it all the way through and they shared it.
Jeez.
Now, we did one season, it didn't get picked up for a second. I think there was a lot of, but I just watching, because again, they know their audience, right? Amazon knows its audience. I mean, Stroumboulis was in an interview and he was talking about how they understand that. And I think someone said, I love the question, I'm paraphrasing, but they're like, how, you know your audience. And he says, look, I know that, but we're not going to give that information to you. You wouldn't understand it anyways. But they can curate now shows. So back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, networks going, let's do a show on, two cops or, whatever. And they're hoping that it's, and then they have the upfronts in New York, and they show the advertisers, and they have to like, here's our fall lineup, here's the new shows. And the advertiser will look at the upfronts and say, okay, we're going to invest in that. And that's how they, whatever.
Yep.
It's a totally different thing.
Different game.
When and when we log into Amazon or whatever streamer we use, they'll say, who's watching? Am I watching? Even with YouTube now, they'll say, is James watching YouTube? Is Georgia watching YouTube?
Because they want to know. Yeah.
So Georgia's subscriptions and Georgia's what they suggest for her are very different from what they show me, right? So it's just a different world. I love it that it's international. I love it that there's more stories that can be told. We've seen them win Academy Awards. We've seen foreign films win best. And I love that because I think we should be more globally aware. So it's not just the old model was in the 80s. It was you did a show, and then after it aired, then you went to a foreign distributor, and then it would air. Now, with the one flip of the switch, it's global. Oh, yeah, it's a global show.
Which, look at some of the most popular shows in the last 1 to 2 years, just on Netflix with Squid Game, South Korean, and they've become global.
People that 10 years ago, we never would have round up. That could have been a huge hit over there.
Yeah.
And if it maybe got here, it'd be after the fact, right? And now it's, and I love that's happened.
Yeah.
And that should have happened. And was now delves into why I wanted to finally tell the adoption story of my mother, because I think people will watch it, because it's not just a Greek story. It's a family story. It's a I think a love story of family, right? A mother saying goodbye to her son. So I think it works. And if we could do that, and then more importantly, use the short film as a catalyst to tell a feature film of which most non-Greeks don't know of, the thousands of us that got kicked out of the country. So, and it would air, and we get, here's the other great thing what streamers did. Now there's an appetite for foreign films. Subtitling is not a big deal. It was like, oh, I have no problem with subtitle. It's fine.
Yep.
So I could do this film with Greek actors in Greece and subtitle it, and the world will like, this is great.
This is great. Yeah.
Like I want to hear the story, and I want to hear it in its native language. Right?
It's become normal, right? People will watch it. We're going to jump into this documentary. I have a question. You've been in the industry, right? You've been on super successful shows, not just successful in Greece or outside, like the hardest place to produce and most popular, Hollywood, in that area, right? Producing shows is, it's a challenge. Everyone dreams of, if you want to be a producer, that's where you want to go. You've done that over decades, right? How difficult has it been staying current? Because you started with Disney lining up clips on VHS and setting that up to straight on Facebook movies. Like, that's a big shift in the industry. How do you stay current? And with all this new technology and people creating a video in Poland, uploading a video with some editing and getting 6 million views, like, how do you compete with that and stay current? Because you're still kicking ass in this industry and developing and doing that. Like, how do you stay relevant?
You got to keep your ear to the ground. You got to stay humble. And the greatest, I've been so blessed with my daughters, because they are, the youngest is 19 and I have a 22-year-old, she'll be 23, but really that's the next pulse. And there are guys my age, younger or older, that said, oh, like, I'm out, the way the streamers are like, and And they don't want to, and just like I'm sure there are people who got out when the silent movies went to talking. I'm sure there are people who go when cables came along, they're like, well, I was at NBC for 30 years and I don't know this HBO, forget it, right? You gotta, if you're gonna be, you gotta keep current and you gotta see the next wave. And I think I learned it as a kid growing up as a surfer. I love that my daughter, Sophia, gave this graduation speech in 6th grade, but she says, you know, we can't control the waves, but we can learn to surf. And it was a great quote. It wasn't her quote, but she got it. And I thought, you know, kind of really in life, we can't control the next iteration. No one knew with Netflix when they were giving you movies in the mail that their plan was they're going to stream these movies, right? It was just to be a mail thing, right? Oh, I got The Godfather. They sent me a VHS or a DVD. I could send it back and I could watch it as many times as I want. But they were already thinking, when the internet catches up to speed, we're to stream this.
Right.
And that subscription to Netflix is now going to be online, right? And when I saw them get into I'm in the Television Academy. When I saw them get into the Television Academy, when I saw them get into the Motion Picture Academy, I'm like, it's over. It's over. Because the rules used to be, for movies, let's say, you had to be in a certain amount of theaters for a certain amount of weeks to even be nominated. And when they got into the Academy, they're like, that's over. So this now feature film never went to a theater, ever. The rules changed. And again, to be sensitive to that and realize, and I knew, like I said, when it happened in the Television Academy and the Motion Picture, was like, that's it.
Right.
And of course, then Apple and everyone else jumped on board and like, here we are. And so movies that are nominated that have never been seen in the theater are being nominated for Emmys and Best Picture. And it's okay.
It is okay that
it is what it is.
Right.
Sometimes that's where you'll see, like, you know, movies coming out just in theaters only, and that's the old model. But even looking now, just recently what Taylor Swift did, she had this huge successful her concert where she's still touring and now but what she did was, and I just read this article last week in Variety, she upset a lot of the studios. Her father called AMC Theaters and said, look, she puts up the $20 or $30 million. At SoFi Stadium, they shot the concert, right?
Okay.
They made a movie, and now they went directly to the theater and said, we're going to air this in your theaters, direct. And when we air in your theaters, we're going to have the concert merch. So that way people who couldn't go to the concert can go see this movie. And this has to come out. So they've already pre-sold the theater tickets. I think it was $100 million, whatever. So they jumped a studio and went right just to say, we're going to go right to the theaters and say, and again, let's watch that. So there's a new iteration of things that are happening. Yes, so my daughter can watch TV shows or movies or subscriptions on YouTube, and it's direct consumer.
Right.
Now, of course, yes, those people on YouTube, they have subscribers, so they're making money. And we're paying $25 a month on YouTube, but and either embrace it or don't. And if you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah.
So now I'm with producers in the Guild, we're saying, which is exciting, oh, I got this documentary, or I got the sitcom, or I have a horror movie. And now we're saying, this may be really be good on Apple, or this may be really good on YouTube, right?
So you're embracing it.
So now it's, where does this land? Where it used to only be 4 networks, then it was networks and cable, and now it's streaming. But now it's like, you know, this could live on YouTube, right? This could be a show on YouTube. And again, you're going directly to your. So there's different ways to do it. And now, with the companies, I formed a production company in London last year. We were trying to do the short film about my mother. So I wanted to post it and do that all in London, not London. Became a part of a new tech company that does AI, and because that's the next thing coming on. Not that I'm trying to take I know that the whole thing with the Guild and what's going on with, I totally understand what they're saying. We're not trying to replace and do that. We're trying to maximize that and use that and partner with studios to monetize more stuff, but also I want to do NFTs.
Yep.
But my NFTs I want to do to donate money back and, this whole charitable thing. So there's a new technology so I'm a part of, because if we don't catch the next wave, I'm going to be out of a job. And that is the next thing that's happening. So along with wanting to do a short film, which we now call the short film as a proof of concept for a feature.
Yep.
Right. So if we do the short film about my mother, the plan would be that it'd be seen by enough eyeballs that some studio would say, our streamer, then I could say, look, well, this is a whole story. This is not just on me, but what happened to 4,000 kids who were, because their mothers weren't married, they were ejected from the country, from Greece. And I think that story should be told in a feature film, not just a documentary, but an actual, so there's that avenue. That I have this access to these female DJs. A friend of mine I worked with at Facebook, this whole Ibiza, these DJs, right? And I didn't know that because I'm too old and really about that. And they travel the world, right? I was more intrigued with these female DJs that are now up and coming. And they're kind of big, but they're not big. And we got some commitments from some of them. And I want to say, look, how can we now, I want to do a docuseries on these female DJs who would travel to Russia and New York and Vegas and go around the world to 10, sometimes 8 or 5 or 10 million people. And they're still, and some are mothers, some have kids.
Yeah.
So I have commitments from 2.
That would be exciting.
The pilot. And again, it's promoting women. It's promoting, because I always was having daughters. This is a male-dominated, that world is very male-dominated. And to see now these women up and coming, I think that's really intriguing. And of course, the whole thing of tying that in. And then another friend of mine in the UK now has this technology as a server. And they just did a thing with MLB, but the server can go, what I'm trying to tie in is, let's say we do the docuseries with a female, let's say you're the female DJ. So we do this backstory about you have a kid and your husband and you travel the world. But then with this new technology, I'm not going to name the company, but they could put the server at Santorini, let's say she's on an island where there's 5 million people. And now 50 million people can pay a subscription and virtually I could put you in that there. So I know Taylor Swift did this thing where she shot the concert.
Sure.
You can watch the concert movie. This technology will put you at the venue live.
3D experience type thing.
You put on virtual glasses. Yeah. You're here, you see it, you're walking around, you're at the venue. Okay? Because I said, how can I tie in production to that next VR experience? Because it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's beta testing right now. So I'm trying to work out the kinks. And I'm not saying we don't know yet. We got to meet and talk about it.
But that's an example, like you are embracing this. Like you're talking about stuff where it's happening. You could either sit there and say, that's not for me, but you're even trying to connect with these DJs, the female DJs, and into that scene. Like that.
Well, it's young, it's hip, look, it's beautiful. The parties are amazing. Yeah, they go around the world.
You just want an excuse to go there, right? Let's be honest.
I mean, it would be, I mean, it's a big job because each documentary would be 2 different girls. So we'd have to have, if we did, let's say 3 episodes and there's 6 girls, and we would have to have 6 crews going around the world with them, right, in planes and buses. So that's exciting visually, but also there's storytelling to tell. And then how do I tie in now the VR experience where they can say, look, if you want to watch them live in Santorini on, May 15th, and we partner with PayPal or whatever, say for $15 or $10, you can be in the concert, and it's a one-time experience. There'll be no more, it won't go to tape later on.
Right.
Like you will, and we're putting you at that concert and you're there.
That's huge.
So that's something else I want to look at doing. And yeah, I see nothing, even though the market's been in a downturn right now. I really do see nothing but potential, and then joining with Producers Without Borders,
yep,
and helping start that. Because
so what is that? Can you talk about that?
So Producers Without Borders, we started it. I helped start it. Kayvon really is the one who started it. I met him in the Producers Guild. He was on the international committee, and I think it was like 2 years ago. And COVID was just coming out of COVID, because up until then you couldn't throw any parties.
Yep.
And I said, look, we really got to do something to connect people. And I said, because he always goes to Cannes. And I said, I saw one of his step and repeat signs. I saw this PWB. He goes, it was supposed to be an educational thing or, something to bring. I said, but that could be a great thing let's connect producers globally. I said, I'm from Greece. He's from, I forget the country he's from, but I said, you're, from another country. Let's connect internationally, producers. I said, so just like in America, if I'm going to go to Georgia or Iowa or wherever, they have film offices, and of course, and even in the Producers Guild, if I say, hey, I'm going to shoot in Texas, I need a good, whatever, does anyone know that? And then of course they would connect, I know this great sound guy, call this guy, right?
Okay.
I said, I want to kind of set that up, also do that globally. Because the more that producers think, I got this story, it's about this Russian girl, but I really don't know in Russia to shoot there, so I'm not going to go shoot there. I'll just fake it and do it in somewhere in America or somewhere in Canada. Now you can go there because hopefully we're connected globally to have what they call fixers to help you out do these projects, whatever country you wrote, and more stories can be told. So I funded the first 5 or 6 lunches and dinners.
You self-funded it to get the global aspect.
I self-funded it. We went to Cannes, we went to Venice, we went to London twice. With LA.
Sorry, can we put up some B-roll while you're talking? Do we have parade? Yeah. Parties look incredible.
You have, and it was, and I went to these things, and it was more. And then I told them we have to shoot these. We have to edit, and I'll produce. My company will produce and give these videos to you, so you get corporate sponsors, which is now where he's at. He's 3 years in,
right?
And now he's got airlines and hotels that are sponsoring the events, and so. And the investment for me was, how can I connect globally? I've met people from Poland and Russia and Ukraine and everywhere.
Through this effort that you started.
Through this effort, you're at these dinners and you're talking to other producers, other storytellers, and some are business people who want to, how can I monetize, or how can I be an investor to, because again, it's storytelling and just connecting people, getting them in the right situation. So I still believe in it. I'm going to still go to these dinners, as much as I can, because I believe in that process of globally telling stories, both with what I want to do with the Greek story, but also helping other. And I've met some other people. There's a movie I want to shoot in India. I mean, it's just, I never would have met these people, and they were real life stories, right? And this woman told me about her story briefly, just that she was in a marriage, it was a fixed marriage, and she was abused, and her daughter fled the country, went to France. She started her own wine company. Her daughters, she went to college. Now she's in Bordeaux. She has her own wine label. Now that's an amazing story. She has her own. She's a single mother. She has her daughter, and then just this whole. And it's not to attack her husband or her culture, but just to say she came out of something and educated herself, went to school, and now. I said, you're a winemaker.
Living her dream. Yeah.
I met her in Harris. And it was, again, without Producers Without Borders, I wouldn't have known about her. And she wrote a script, and I said, oh my gosh, we have to make. So it's things like that I want to cherry pick. What do I want to be part of as a producer? What stories do I want to tell?
Right.
So now on the docket for me, really next year, the goal is, this is the 4th writer. She's amazing. I'm not going to name her name, but she's big. She's a director writer. We met at a party at SAG through a friend I met at Cannes. And she was intrigued by the story about my mom. Because when I tell writers, they always want to do all this other stuff. I said, no. This is the goodbye story. This is about a 20-year-old girl who came to court to say goodbye.
Can we jump into that?
Sure.
Can we talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've referenced it a few times. I know the story from you telling me. So there was an ugly period in Greece's history, right? In the late 60s under the monarchy.
It was from I want to say like 57, 56 to the mid 60s.
Okay.
The government totally wasn't part of this. The monarchy what they made it do was made it look like, oh, we're taking these orphans and giving them homes around the world because they're left here. But in reality we were called illegitimate. My mother, and back then, if you weren't married and you were going to have a baby, the government was going to take it because we were deemed illegitimate. So finding out the story at 18, I first found out at 13, I was adopted, but finding the true story at 18. And with my mother, Sophia, I'm reading my adoption papers, and I'm stupefied because I didn't know this whole story up until then. And then it said, the illegitimate, twice in the papers it said the illegitimate child of Georgia Caracas. And I remember saying to my mom, who's this woman? And my mom's like, honey, she wasn't a woman, she was a girl. And my mother at the time was like in her mid-30s because they were trying to have a child. And she said, no, your mother, unlike with Ray, my older sister, didn't show up. Your mom was in court. In fact, even in the court record, it says she's appeared on her own behalf. In fact, it says she's given her consent, which she has no legal right over me, but they wrote, oh, she gave her consent to, Anyway, what I did find out in my research was the mothers, around the 62, 63, they were sending out notices to the mother saying, your child's being adopted, which, of course, most of the mothers didn't want to go to court to appear to watch their child being
tormenting,
right? Because why would you, but they're like, I'm like, your car, da. So what my mother Sophia told me, and God bless, she was an amazing woman. She just is an amazing woman. But the two things that struck me, she says, for me to get a child, someone had to lose a child. She says, I'm in court when the judge said she's appeared on her own behalf, Georgia. My mom realized, like, oh my gosh, she's behind me. She's here. And she said to me, I didn't turn, I did so imagine there's a court, and we're, listen, you understand, like, there's my mom, there's the court lawyer, I'm there, whether I was with a nurse or not, but I'm there. And, every given day, they're just banging out adoptions. The judge is there, okay, they're through, okay, here's your kid. So he reads it's just 5 pages. And all they really needed back then was a letter from the priest in Northridge, from St. Nicholas, that, they go to our church, they're good Greek people, they will baptize this kid and raise him in the church. And they're like, that's enough.
That's it.
They weren't going to the home visit. This is
like it's charity process.
This is 1964. So then he reads the thing. Okay, they're basically awarded custody. They bring me over. So they brought me over to my mom, Sophia. And then now the hearing's over, right? The pounds the gavel, they're going to go on to the next case. And my mother, Georgia, walked over and said, can I say goodbye to my son? And my mother handed me to my mother.
So that your adoptive mother handed that to your biological.
And my mother, I remember my mom just sobbing, telling me the story, and she just said, and that's what she said, I realized, you're seeing who you're taking a child from. Like, I'm getting a child. This is, yay, I get a son, right? But now you're seeing who you're taking the son from. So she just said, my mom, Georgia, cradled me and was whispering, talking to me, kissing me. And, she's just sitting down on the bench in the court. And I don't know how long it lasted, but there was a moment. And I knew they said there was something going on where my dad or someone was like, hey, and they're like, no, she has legal right. She's a mom. She can be here. Like, we let her know that's why she's here. She knew the court date. And my mom says she stood back up. She hands me back to my mother, Sophia. And very stoked, not crying and sobbing and screaming and all that, just very, like, I'm going to say goodbye to my son, right? And my mom, I said, what? She said, she handed it back. My mom said her and my dad walked out, and she just stood there, watched them leave. And she said, we never saw her again, and she never saw you again. And so that set in motion for me, and we talked about this, the showing up.
Yeah.
Right. Don't tell me, like, commitment should cost you. I always say commitment should cost you something. And she showed up, and she said, I'm going to say goodbye to my son. This is what I'm going to do. I have no legal right. I'm a woman in the 60s in Greece. I'm young. I'm not married. Whatever they think about me, I'm doing this. And what I've always tried to tell my daughters, what we did, as much as if I gave money to an organization, a nonprofit, I said, like when I talked about the Fixing Photos here in Los Angeles is a local, they spay and neuter animals. I said, so we're going to donate money. I'm going to make videos for them to promote them. They have golf tournaments. They have one coming up next month. But we're also going to, during COVID, there were families who were struggling, they were between, do I feed myself or feed my animal? So I got the girls in the car. I said, we got a list of addresses. We're going to deliver food to these people, right? That's when I gave to Project Angel food. Again, I said, we're going to go down. We're going to get 5 a.m. We're going to package food to people who are injured, who can't go out, and they need food. And then when I got involved with Children at Work Foundation, it was, and being an advisor on the board, it was, okay, we're going to go to the Syrian border. We're going to go to refugee camps, and we're going to be with these kids. And we did the season of giving. We took them shopping and got them clothes, and we helped fund the school. And then the Georgia Project, where there were 3 girls who we were able to not have them get married off and have them finish high school.
Right, just explain that. Not get married off. So you have these 14.
There were three girls that what they told me was they were between 12 and 14, 15. And the father's like, look, and money, they're refugee, they're in a tent, right? And it would be in that culture and easier for them just to be married off. And now they're one less person to feed. And I understand that. Yeah. I do. And so I said, can we, and I didn't want to be disrespectful to the culture or to the need and what was going on. And so we started what I call it's called the Georgia Project. And in fact, we hung up a little sign out at if I could show you footage, but we have this, the logo is 4 girls in a hijab. In fact, Georgia my daughter made the logo actually. But, and we said, look, we told the fathers, if we give you money, can you have your daughter keep going to school and not have them get married off? And I was interpreters doing this. I didn't want to, come in on the white knight. And we did it. So I know that there were 3 girls, and I believe they've all now this year graduated high school. I don't know, because the plan was then hopefully that we get them somewhere else into maybe higher education. But the goal goes back to, which I've always told you when I go to these places, when I went to Ukraine, it was to let these people know, like going to an orphanage where I came from, you matter, your life matters, what you do matters, and I'm coming from another country to tell you, not just write a check, but I'm coming to tell you that you're worth me coming here, that don't just think you're, trash or you're in a tent or wherever you are. And, it's crazy to say, but I love, and the war zones are the best because the people are the most, I think anywhere they're appreciative, but, Ukraine changed my life during the war. That changed my life. Going through, flying into Jordan, going through, like, there's military tanks. I mean, they're stopping your car. I mean, it's legit. Last year, so 2022 in April, I delivered $500,000 of medicine in Kyiv and Lviv.
Physically, you didn't write a check. You physically showed up in Poland, drove over,
flew into Poland, and then we arranged through Children War Foundation and it had to be in ambulances because that was the only way we were going to get quickly in with the medicine. And medicine was donated, from hospitals here in America. Sure. But we also knew there was an expiration date, like we had to get this in. When the original person was going to do it, didn't do it, and I happened to be with the founders, the leaders of with the actual foundation. And ironically, we're at a Greek restaurant. And I just remember thinking, I just told them, I'll take it in. And they're like, this is a war zone. And I said, but this medicine's got to get in. And, again, no guarantee of safety.
Right.
You got to wear a bulletproof vest, got to wear a helmet, got to have your phone off. You got to use paper maps. I mean, it's a whole different thing. And being able to go to Ukraine and to go first to Kyiv, in the capital, and go into these hospitals that we got millions of dollars for to keep these private hospitals open so people that were local can still get their medicine and get operations again. And people who were shrapnel and got blown up and stuff can go get aid. And so that was, and again, like you said, that we take medicine out of the ambulance and I'm like, here, and it was great to say, I don't know where the other money goes or what government grant, whatever that goes, but I can tell you, and I have footage, I have proof that what I brought in, I know I gave it to a children's hospital, I gave it to a doctor, and how appreciative, as I told him the story about the soldiers, where they just, it's sad, and also sad in a way that, why are you here? You're not Ukrainian. And I just said, look, you people, I said, I'm a Greek American. It was Holy Week. And I said, we're both Orthodox. This is our Holy Week. I think it was, and how that gentleman put his gun down and hugged me and gave me some, his flag and some stuff off his uniform, right? To like, let me give you this. And then my daughter still has it. And I promised him that I get the tattoo of the Ukrainian trident, and I did. And, you had it right there. I got it right there. Jeez. But it was, to honor these people. And then to go in the children's hospital and and they're so grateful, and you're looking at these kids and they don't know what's going on. some of these kids were sick before. Some kids had cancer. Some kids, whatever was going on, but they needed medicine, irregardless of the war.
So we don't get political here, and everyone has a political opinion, but you were feet on the street. You saw this, right? You were motivated by politics one way or another. You just wanted to help any way you could. You go in and come out. Like that's...
it was kind of, again, going back in the spirit of my mom. Like, I'm going to show up. Earlier with Children at War, and again, I was on the advisory. We delivered pallets of diapers and milk. We did all that, but that took over a month to get in. And I remember hearing the frustration, because I remember my daughter and I went to Costco and we spent a bunch of money to get. We were like, what do you need? We need diapers and milk. That was the number one.
Yeah.
So we went out shopping and we did that. But I actually got in quicker with my medicine before the diapers and milk got there, right? I don't know what happened. I don't know the whole logistics and international. I don't know how that works. But this was an undercover way we did it. It was so covert and then being in the Producers Guild, Delta Airlines, and they were amazing. They sponsor the PGA. They do dinners. So I called Delta, said, look, I'm doing this humanitarian thing. This has nothing to do with movies. And from the get-go, I told them, they immediately said, look, when you come to the airport, we're going to help you with the luggage. And they checked me in, and they were so, because, it was through coming from LAX I got into Poland.
Okay.
And they were amazing. And I guess some top-level guy at Delta was Ukrainian himself. And when they heard of what we were doing, they rolled out the red carpet. So I got to, just give them a plug saying they were amazing.
Amazing.
And yeah, so then Children at War then knew people, volunteers who bought ambulances from other countries, brought them in because they were shoveling bodies. Excuse me. And they, so then she orchestrated that. They picked me up at the airport, and I had all these...
In Poland, you show up in Poland, all the medicines waiting there, and then you have...
I brought all the medicine with me, right? All of it, all these bags, and we had 16 boxes in huge black duffel bags bought on Amazon, filled with medicine, and we had to inventory all of it. We had the whole thing, and then working with the local governments there, defense ministers, because this was a legit thing. And then getting into Poland, and then going into Ukraine.
But like Poland, what city to where? That's a 4 or 5 hour drive.
It took from getting to Poland. We stayed the night there. We first got in. The next day we got up early. We drove into then you go through the checkpoints, and then you get into Ukraine. So it took 4 to 6 hours before we got into. We stayed by Lviv, but then the next day we had to get up. There was a curfew. You can only be on the road from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And the government said, after that, if you are, then you could be ambushed or killed or murdered or shot out of the sky. So don't be on the road. So I remember we had to stay and find hotels or restaurants, because one night it was like 9:30. We're like, we're going to get off the road.
But hotels and restaurants were open. Like, that's what I guess people don't get. Like
some were, and we'd go in, and of course we're always asking, do you have a bunker? We had alarm sirens that, the apps.
Yep.
That would notify you, like, oh, there's maybe an invasion or a bombing. So everywhere we went, whether it was a restaurant or a hotel or the hospital's like, do you guys have bunkers? So if they go off, we could go to a bunker and be safe. So that was, and again, paper maps. You couldn't use the internet. You couldn't use,
roads are functional. Like, it's a
roads
war
are blown
zone.
up, gas stations are blown up. But the other thing was the gas stations that were open, because they were rationing gas. Because we were in an ambulance, we could fill up.
Okay.
Other people, if you pulled up with your car, there were a lot of you, maybe 1 or 2 gallons of gas, right? But we were an ambulance, so we're medical. They didn't ask they just hit, it's an ambulance. And the whole time we were there, day or night, we had our lights on the whole time.
But you're still paying for the gas? Or they're not giving gas?
No,
you're still paying.
No. So, in fact, Children at War, they gave me cash to buy gas. So we even funded the gas. Well, so... we stopped by tanks that were blown up. I mean, one of the guys walked in, there was, I guess, someone dead in there. We went into Bucha with our ambulance, and that was like, I wasn't prepared. I mean, I'm not saying I have, learning PTSD as a soldier, but you see movies, but until you go into a city where there are corpses and body and the smell and broken glass and dogs are, they just running stray, bloody paws because of busted glass. I mean, they destroyed that city. And they let us in Abuja because we were in ambulances. I don't know if they thought we were going to get people out or, but they just said, hey, do you want to go over to Abuja? Because I had a camera and I was trying to just document as a producer, like, let's tell the story. And I'm like, and I didn't understand. I just said, someone like saying, hey, you want to go over to, Venice Beach? And you're like, okay, let's check it out from Maya. Well, I'll check out Venice Beach or Malibu. So I said, I'll go to Abuja, sure. If you're, and I went in and it was unbelievable. And I remember we only had like 20 minutes. I walked around, I shot everything I could.
It was not tragic. Like it was.
Yeah. And you get back in the van, they get back in the ambulance. I just sat there and I just sobbing because you're not prepared. No one should be prepared for that. Right? No one should realize. And like, if the war ended today, that city, no one's going to move back to their apartments and homes. It's destroyed. It's gone. It's over. And there were multiple cities like that. And the whole time we're Greek Orthodox, as an Eastern Orthodox person, I'm seeing these beautiful churches. And it's Holy Tuesday, it's Holy Wednesday. Oh, we normally get Holy Unction. And you realize that they can't go to Holy Week because they knew that if we're inside the church, that now they want to blow it up. So they even then they weren't able to go to church during Holy Week.
That's crazy.
So the whole thing was surreal. All that to say, as a producer and a storyteller, it changed my life for the better, and it just fuels the fire. Like, let's show up, let's do good, let's go. I guess at a risk, but my mantra always is commitment should cost you something, whether it's money, monetary money, or my time, or me risking something for you. And again, I go back to my mother showed up in court.
Yeah, hearing you talk about it, it's inspiring, right? And I have 3 young daughters, and it's like, okay, you try to bring them up in this bubble and protect them and the information they absorb and all this, but like we try to create too much of a bubble, and there's the real world that's going on, and they need to understand what's going on, right? And at what point do you? But having them see that, having them come along. Your daughters have been to a lot of these places with you.
They've been to the Syrian border. I didn't take them into Ukraine. Sophia did go earlier before me. She was the one who set up with the government in Poland and the defense minister. So Sophia did go to Poland. So when we were helping the hospital that I was going to go to, they had brokered that deal.
Right.
So she went, a month or 2 before me, got involved. And then Georgia, my younger one, inventoried all the medicine with us at the house that we got donated.
God bless them.
And then, we packed it up and I went. So yeah, again, not everyone I was fortunate. Yeah. And having hands-on and again, having the real world experience of like, let's just giving's great. And I don't begrudge people who have the money, God bless them, to write a check. But I wanted to be boots on the ground, and I wanted, let's get your hands dirty and let's see this part of humanity, because that will change you. I'd rather be known at the end of my life. I'd rather be known for what I gave, not what I got. I think a lot of people are like, they got awards, or they got this, or they feel known by what they've accumulated. And again, nothing against business and making money, but my whole thing now is, if it can't be, there's got to be a balance of both.
Yeah.
And obviously companies in America, everyone knows, I don't care if it's Coca-Cola or Budweiser or Target, they now want to get behind giving because they know that people like that. People like to know when you're benevolent, when you're giving. And there are companies that start off from the very beginning and say, look, we're going to give, I know Paul Newman years ago when he started all these brands, it was 90% of everything goes to charity. It was a Paul Newman salad dressing, Paul Newman coffee. Now, I think I heard all of it goes to charities. And that was just his ethos, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my name, I'm Paul Newman, I'm going to make the salad dressing, I'm going to make whatever coffee, whatever I do, and it's going to go to charity.
Yeah, and you want to get behind people like that as well.
Right? And I just feel like if someone said they want to do a business, they want to do something, even when I got involved with the new company, Hiram, I said, we have to be benevolent. We have to be something early on our DNA.
Absolutely.
That yes, we can make money. We can make tech. We can do all this great stuff, and we should. But there also has to be early on something that's always giving back.
Yeah.
That's where I love being a part of BAFTA. When I heard about, I didn't know they were a nonprofit, and then able to give money to them. I'm an Academy Circle member, but that was to donate money to the theater to put my mom's name on a chair.
And BAFTA, the acronym for the listeners?
It's British, it's the Film and Television Academy.
Okay.
Basically, it's kind of like, instead of we have Television Academy and Motion Picture there, it's all, so they handle music, gaming, TV, and film.
Oh, wow.
So if you win a BAFTA award, it's one of those things. And they're huge. And so,
is that a government agency in the UK, or that's independent?
It's independent. It's a nonprofit, and they've been around forever.
Okay.
And so, at a PwC dinner in London, I met a gal who raises money, and I just said, "Oh, I thought you guys were awards, and I didn't know that you help inner city kids or kids, in the arts, where they can come in and they can become actors and writers and directors, and there's things for just young girls to be, all these different programs. I didn't know any of that. So yeah, I gave, a chunk of money, and they were refurbishing the building, the Piccadilly building. And there was this Queen Anne Theater, and I said, they said, we'll put your name on a chair. And I just said, you're not my name. We're going to put my mother's name. Your mom's just chair. So Georgia Caracas is on, I think, the second row. And it happened to be chair number 4, which is interesting because I'm born on the 4th of June. So that was cool how that worked out. Because I just said, I don't care where you place it. Just as long as she's in the theater.
Turned out to be symbolic.
It turned out to be very symbolic. So, yeah, I think, and now there'll be hopefully a thing I'll be doing with them with NFTs to help them raise money. Yeah, because again, they're a nonprofit. And then I got involved with GeneCo. I heard from an actor friend of mine, and they're a all-girls school in Nigeria. And again, I want to help. I've been to some benefit dinners in Hollywood, but my whole goal was, remember I met with one of the founders, and remember he said, again, here we go again. I said, why do you want to do this? And I know what he means. Like, you're not African-American, you're from Nigeria. And I said, I get it, but it's sad that there's like, what's the catch? I said, ultimately I want to go to that school. I want to help if there's a school or hospitals, or how can I not just get the money but how can I go there? Yeah. Right.
Well, these experiences are changing you, right? From what I've seen too, right? Like that's...
you'll never be... It's funny because it's funny what a lot of people would say to me, how come you gave? I said, what I got out of Ukraine, what I got out of going to Jordan several times, the season of giving thing we did, where we took those kids shopping and got them clothes and brought them gifts. And again, it wasn't their Christmas time, but it was our season. We called it our season of giving. We got back way more than... it's life changing.
Absolutely.
And watching my girls was so beautiful. We're leaving the refugee camp, and they're intense. We're going back into Jordan. And I remember we're just crying. We're telling stories. And I remember this one gal, my daughter Sophia, she's talking, this girl was like 14. One of the girls we sponsor. Okay. The Georgia Project. But Georgia was like, that's a pretty ring. And she took it off and gave it to Sophia. And I'm thinking, and Sophia's this emotion starts crying. She's like, here's a girl lives in a tent. Right? And she wants to, because I just noticed, that's what a beautiful. She goes, I want you to have this. Come on. And Sophia still has the ring. And it's those moments like that. And you can't, again, it was showing up and going there. And now, Sophia got her degree. She right now, she works at a university, but she wants to get into diplomacy, and God willing, she will get her master's and PhD. But that was one of those things, like a gal that lives in a tent wanted, because I commented on her ring, gave me her ring. And it's, again, you get way more back.
You get way more back.
Oh, yeah, than you ever give.
James, let's go really quick. I want to talk about the short film you're doing on your mother. And I just want to reiterate, you technically in Greece were considered an orphan.
Right.
You had a mother and a father.
Well, she wasn't married. But
she wasn't married, but the government, right, the monarchy took you away from a mother who was a teenager at the time and put you in this group as an orphan and basically taken to another country. I just want to make sure the listeners understand, like, that is not okay, right? You discovered this. This is great. You've gone through your emotional roller coasters. Like, that's a lot. You become like the stronger man. You're giving back. I believe that's motivated you to do tremendous good, right? Like, you're doing some stuff that truly has inspired me. Like, I need to do more. I hear that. It's like, I need to do more. Now you're going to get her story out there, your mother's story in Georgia, right? What what's that process look like? So you're going to tell a 10-minute story, a 20, like how does that work?
So we're looking to do with this new writer, it's probably a 15, 20-minute short. I found out because I hired a genealogist and I did all the I did like Ancestry and 23andMe. I did all those because I was been looking for family.
Sure.
And to prove that I hired a genealogist because I wanted to make sure, am I really a Caracas, right? And that's true. In this process, we found out most likely my father's Armenian, right? Now there were a lot of Greeks in our, a lot of Armenians in Greece because a lot of them fled earlier in the, so that made sense. So now, what I love what Lisa said, this director writer, she's like, the story I want to tell, because to me, the whole point of the story is the goodbye, that this woman showed up to say goodbye to her son. And because that's all I know about her, we're going to take creative license to get there, right? So we just thought, let's tell how they've shown her as a young girl in Greece, and she's going to the Plaka, and she's dancing, and she meets this guy, and he's, they fall in love, and they get pregnant. She gets pregnant, and we're kind of thinking at the time, because everyone has to serve in the military. He was probably born in Greece, and we're just trying to write this. He's got to go away. He didn't know that she was pregnant, and we don't know what really happens to him. So first we see love and joy and happiness in Greece. Therefore, but okay. And then now she loses him. And the next phase would be that she knows if I go to the hospital, I'll have this baby, they're going to take him. Because all the mothers at that time knew what was going on. And so we just thought, well, for whatever reason, she did go to the hospital. And the moment they realized that, it's like, okay. And from what we understand, she was illiterate. Most girls were. Mm-hmm. So even when they had her signing documents, she second read doesn't know. So my first year and a half was in an orphanage. Run by the government, and the government made sure that we weren't baptized and we weren't named.
Jeez.
And so then when my parents came to get me, and that's where the adoption paper says the unnamed, unbaptized, illegitimate child of Georgia Caracas. The illegitimate. So it, which then spawned the idea, which I formed a company, Legitimate Son, here, but I want to do one in London because I'd like to, when we do the short film next year, the production company would be not JPA, which is my company now. We've had it since 2016, but to have Legitimate Son be the production company, because it was always in her honor to legitimize, because this poor woman had to hear twice in court. They're saying to a woman, to a mother, you're illegitimate child. And I'm sure she's thinking, he's a valid human. No government, nobody should say over anyone who's more important, who's valuable, who's not. No one has that right. And to just diminish the importance, and I'm not even just saying to myself, that's what they said to all of us. We were illegitimate. And so, so having a production company called Legitimate Son. So what we're looking at is we want to get this. So I've had different writers, but I never was in love with the script because I always led to the last moment, the goodbye moment, right? And showing her strength and tenacity. And then and make it, not like a documentary, but just so people who most non-Greeks don't know the story, right? To tell and the hopes would be that we could use the short film as a catalyst to do a feature, not on me, but on, because a lot of kids, as I told you earlier, there's a good chunk of the kids where the mothers was, oh, your baby died last night. And the baby was given away. And the mother said, and they were like, you, and I knew the story. There was two, I met this one woman who she went back to Greece, once she found out she was up, went back to Greece, found her mom, and the mother's like, I was told you died. So there was some of that going on that they were just lied to.
But they can't get away with it. Like, can you vindicate this? How do you get this back? Can you bring awareness?
Well, a short film in the future, the government they're not acknowledging this. I think they want to run out the clock. Yeah, look, I'm 60. There are people older than me, and I think if they run out the clock away another 10 or 20 years, we'll all be dead. And then, my the grandchildren,
much harder.
What are you talking about? Everything's talking about. That was in the 50s and 60s. So, it was really one of my producer friends, and the Gil was like, because I would sometimes get around to telling the story, because I said, I'm from Greece, I was adopted, and they never knew the story.
Right.
And when they're like, wait a minute, that's an amazing, you're a producer, why don't you want to tell this story? So it just worked out now that, and I've gone back and forth to Greece several times, but it's, and it's like $85,000 probably to shoot. It's a period piece. I want to do it right where it's in Athens, 1964. We got not a lot of locations, but we need to find an orphanage. We need to find, the hospital. We need to find. Now the hospital's still that I was born in. The orphanage is gone. They destroyed that. The courthouse, as I heard, was remodeled. The building's still there, but it's turned into something else. But there are still a lot of the orphanages around Athens. Last year I hired a location crew. They did find some of the old shut down orphanages. They locked them up and they're just.
So you want to film there? You want it to be as authentic as.
I want to have Greek. We found there's 2 Greek girls that are amazing Greek actresses. I want this to be a Greek film, and I want to go to Greece. I want to shoot with a Greek crew, and
in Greek, it will be
all in Greek.
All in Greek, okay,
and with subtitles and make this film and take it to festivals and to get eyeballs on it, to hopefully, again, not tell my story as much as I want to tell my mom's story. Yeah, that's all I want to do. If I tell my mother's story and people see it, I'm good. And if that could be a catalyst to hear the 4,000 other people, right, 3,000 or 4,000 of us that we went through this, and we all have different stories, and shed light on that, that would be on her basis would be the ultimate goal.
Absolutely, and I know it is your story. It's remarkable, but to have you be a product of that and have all this, challenges in life, ups and downs, and to just be skyrocketing and succeed in your career, I feel like you should be part of that story. It has to, and maybe it's not the anchor, but my God, man, you should be so proud of what you're doing and what you're doing for your daughters and that side. It's incredible.
It's been it's very humbling. Like I said, Hollywood's a tough business. I've had my own production company. I mean, when it's great, it's great. When it's bad, it's bad.
Right.
And besides the stuff in production, whatever I've done, it's also making sure that they've all had college degrees. Sophia just graduated Chapman. George is going to go on to London to go to school. And that, again, they always knew on the back of their yaya, who didn't have a chance at all, right? And it wasn't even afforded. And so I am grateful. I've just been blessed, and I'm not bitter about anything, whether it's all been good. And so now looking through the prism of giving back, making sure my daughters are set up academically where they have options. When they have options, then they could, with limited options, and people are like, why did you buy that? Why did you date this guy? Why'd you go? Because they didn't have any options, right? So I want to give them options. And then professionally stay in production, look at new tech to do. And then I'd love to set up ultimately some kind of foundation or nonprofit and go to war zones and go to orphanages, right, and go and hang out with the refugees and dig wells and paint and build buildings and get my hands dirty if it's dangerous, and do that. Get money, get people to donate, but go and know that whether it was, you helped raise the money or got the medicine, and then bring it in.
Absolutely.
So they know, because again, it always goes back to, as my mother said something to me, I don't know what she said to me when she said goodbye. I want to believe she told me she loved me. I got to believe she told me that she matters to me and I'm her world, and my dad would have loved me and be proud of me. And she's trying to send me off with something. Likewise, I'm trying to say when I go wherever I've been, and we did a thing with Navajo Nation where we spent money for water because water is poisoned out there. It's just horrible what's going on out there. But again, to be with these locals saying, you guys matter, I love you guys, and I'm coming here because you're not just refuse, you're not just, you do matter. Right. And I took my girls out to Navajo Nation, and we spent days out there and just getting your feet dirty and hugging and loving on people. And if one of these girls in Jordan and Syrian border can say, I don't remember who the guy was, I don't know, but some guy showed up, and he bought me clothes, he bought me, and he's paying for school, and that could help. Or, I did this education video, like I was saying, the videos where we asked them, what do you want to be? All of them wanted to be doctors, police officer. And I said, one guy says, I want to build. He goes, why? Because all the buildings are destroyed. I want to build buildings. None of them were bitter. None of them were like, I don't know, you know, they're all just, they wanted to give back, and they're in tents, and there are schools in the tent. And the video, I based it on like, this is a human right to have education. And we were educating these kids, but I just sat them down with a camera and just said, tell me what you want to be. And I made 3 little videos. I mean, I've been making these videos, but it was just the beauty of the humanity of like, yeah, we talked about that road, and they're not bitter.
Right.
They want to become an officer to protect people. They want to become a doctor to heal people. They want to become architects to build buildings that, because of the war, has destroyed all the buildings. And that's so, you know, and again, it just, your belief again in humanity, like they want to do something better for the greater good. So that's all that to say, going back to the Georgia project, I hope next year, whether it's through my own investments I get or my own, or how it works out, but we think it's going to be like 85,000 to do a period piece. Because I really want to, I mean, I don't want it to be cheap. I want it to be, to get the right costume, get the right thing, and shoot this thing right. If we're going to go to film festivals, let's really tell the story.
And film festivals, like you do the standard, like how does that work?
So you go, I mean, you know, we'd go to, whether it was, you know, Berlin or Cannes or Venice, we'd find, you know, because I mean, Sundance, there's so many, because you got to kind of look at the film festival, like but I really believe the documentary we did on refugees, that's a perfect venue for Berlin.
Okay.
Is that a perfect venue for Cannes? Probably not, right? So you got to look at what festival would want, because they always want the premiere, right? So once we make the film next year, the goal would be to really look at what festival would be best to show this in. You go to festivals, of course, because even if you get placement, I mean, I know a lot of people use it to get an Academy Award nominee, right? If you win enough, I think 3 festivals, then you can get an Academy Award nomination, where then you can enter the Academy Awards.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's not, I don't want to do this, it's not to win awards, it's to get exposure. Because a lot of films that get into these festivals, you always hear about a film got picked up and Amazon bought it, you know, someone bought the picture, and now it's going to be, you know, released. So that's, for me, the idea is to say, let's get the short and let's get the story out there. Because again, most people don't know what happened in Greece then.
Yeah.
And do a bigger story of the whole thing. And hopefully, I mean, one day Greece will come forward and, you know, this is our home country. And I'm a proud Armenian Greek, and I was born there. I have a citizenship there. My daughters have citizenship there. And I want to do more things in Greece. I'd love to do, you know, whether it's a production company, or I'd love to one day, a friend of mine who does the vineyard, she said to me, she's talking about this wine, I forget the name of it now, but they only do 600 bottles or 300 bottles, and the bottles are like, there's like a 4-year wait to get these bottles. Okay. And it all goes to charity, right? And she told me, Jim, do you want to push or pull business? Do you want to be in Costco for $20 a bottle, or do you want, you know, smaller, but there's a demand? And she says, if you can get a story and find a village or an island in Greece and get the locals, and you know, they're buying the story of the bottle, not just obviously total wine. So yeah, a pipe dream would be to have wine there. Again, not my name on it, and the money would go to charity and go to locals in the, you know, town, and to tell stories. So it's those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, because again, I as I move into London now, I mean, I home back to Europe. I'll always have a foot here, but it's what could I do with Greeks?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we're going to get some important eyeballs to this episode, right? From around the world, right? Some important eyeballs. It's good. Your story is incredible. We're going to put all your links up, socials, how to get in contact, everything. You've been gracious with your time. I appreciate it. To wrap up, anything you want to talk about specifically, any plugs, any projects that you have, you know, in the NFT space, or anything that you have coming up that we can...
Yeah, the most current thing is we, in the ethos of Greeks helping Greeks, right? I formed a couple of years ago, invested with 2 young Greek kids, right? Ariana, Alexei. We did a Greek NFT. It's called Village Goats. And it took a long time to launch and get it made. But once we finally got it made, and some of the money goes to charity, the market crashed and fell out. We were going to sell these original. We did 3,000 minted goats, different goats. They were going to be 150 each. Now we put the price to 75. And the goal was, how could we start a thing with, for us, by us? How could we, us Greeks, do something that's created for us that benefits us? And if this model works, we can do it even more than line up with a hospital, line up with a, in Greece or here, a Greek church, a Greek foundation, a Greek school, So it hasn't really, I think out of the 3,000, we've sold 3.
Okay.
I want to do as much that I'm doing my own self-exposure. I invested my own money in this. They did it. And we're trying to get it on social, but I love to see that succeed and take some of that money, then do some more. But then line up with something in Greece or something I say, look, we're going to do another one, whether it's Village Goats or something else. And Greeks supporting Greek. I think that's very valuable that we as a minority, even in this country, but even, our island's very small, where we're from in Greece, but that we are supporting one another. The guy who did my website's Greek. Yeah. I'm trying to always look to where we can support ourselves.
So we need to do more of that in our culture. We talking just North America, we don't do enough of that. We compete a lot with each other. And if we could band together when it makes sense, right? It's got to make sense financially.
It should be the most, and again, it's not a matter of exclusion being racist. Again, I've traveled to other countries that it's not, I'm only trying to help Greeks. Yep. But it's a tough road, and Hollywood's tough. It's very, where there are not a lot of Greeks helping Greeks.
Yep.
And the analogy I told you where they get up in their castle and they pull up the drawbridge and they wanted to show you, this is where I'm at. I'm really successful, whether I'm an actor, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But they're not helping and bringing up the next generation. And that has to change.
Think of where your career started. Sticker on the top of your helmet.
If it wasn't for that guy, God bless him, that he just saw the name. And that was enough.
Yeah.
And if I could keep that momentum where it's like, not, keeping, others up, it's saying, if I could help, because again, I was adopted. My Greek parents went to Greece and got me. I don't know where I'd be in Greece, if I'd be a taxi cab driver, a Yido stand. I don't know what my options would be, but something helped change me. And then he at 13 changed my life. And then all of a sudden I fell in love with the business, and we could do more of that ourselves and help where we can.
Absolutely.
Right. Not just exclude, but help where we can. This NFT, the Village Goats, was certainly something that we wanted to, I hope we sell it out this year. I'd love to see it sell out. We want to take some of that seed money and then partner with some other companies or some other churches or some other hospitals and say, we want to do this again, listen to ideas and keep that momentum going. So that's that. And then the short film next year.
Amazing. Keep rocking, man. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And this won't be the first, though. We'll have many conversations going on.
We're connected.
Yeah. And by the way, you're moving to London this week, right?
London.
Yeah. We're filming this outside of LA now, Orange County, and James is actually moving over there with his daughter by Monday. So good luck with that move.
Yeah, it would be, she get her set up for school, got a bunch of meetings with, my business partners and people out there, and just hustling.
Awesome.
For the next thing. But it's all exciting.
Love it. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons and follow me on all the main podcast streaming channels. Also, please share your comments when you can. I appreciate your help in expanding this network to a worldwide audience. Until next time, stay invigorated.